We thank Scott Ritter for the interview. No decision, no discussion, by the way, about this U.S. being spread out so thin militarily is complete without taking into account our dedication, if not devotion, to Saudi Arabia. And by the way, when it comes to Saudi Arabia, the war in Yemen is always at the forefront. It's a war for which there has been little to no accountability for the hundreds of thousands of children that have been slaughtered, a war in which we are very much complicit. So I want to show you something, all right? As we begin this report, I want to show you the area that's most affected, right? Because there's a place here that's called the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb. It is right in here. You see where Djibouti is and you see where Yemen is, interestingly enough. Now you can imagine all the oil that has to pass through this area to get through, which is what makes that particular place so important, right? 4.8 million barrels of oil passing through this narrow passageway just about every day. And now we're told the real reason for the war in Yemen is a religious conflict between Shia Houthis and the Sunnis, or the Saudis, or some other part, when in actuality, it's all about the oil. Here is our correspondent, Michelle Greenstein, with more.
Now, unsurprisingly, one of Washington's strategic objectives is to maintain control over any major seaway, and Bab el-Mandeb is designated by the U.S. Department of Energy as a major oil transit choke point. But here's where it gets interesting. There's also the issue of the untapped oil of Yemen itself. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Yemen has proven oil reserves of about 3 billion barrels. A U.S. geological survey from 2002 assesses that when undiscovered potential is added to known reserves, the total petroleum resource endowment for Yemen rises to 9.8 billion barrels of oil equivalent. But the petroleum that Yemen sits on has yet to be fully explored. For this reason, there may be more at stake under Yemen than we previously thought. Take a look at the CIA report from 1988. Although it's filled with redactions and was only declassified in part, it suggests that South Yemen alone, which was its own country at the time, has an oil potential of 5 billion barrels. Not only does the CIA write that South Yemen's potential recoverable oil resources could be considerably larger than its estimate, they also write that deposits of oil and gas probably exist in the newly created neutral zone along the disputed border between North Yemen and South Yemen. According to economic expert Hassan Ali Al-Saneri, the scientific research and assessments conducted by the international drilling companies show that Yemen's oil reserves are more than the combined reserves of all the Persian Gulf states. The presence of significant reserves in Yemen would explain why the Pentagon has actively backed the Saudi effort to take back the country from the Houthis. Though the U.S. may not need the oil under Yemen for energy, a Houthi-controlled Yemen could be a potential client for Russian and Chinese oil companies. An independent Houthi movement controlling huge swaths of land would be enough of a threat for Washington to back Riyadh's assault on Yemen, which is exactly what the Obama administration did in 2015. And as one would expect, Yemen's crude oil production dropped in 2015 when the Saudi-led coalition started bombing the country. And in 2017, reports that Saudi Arabia had set up an oil base and was extracting oil from Yemen started to surface. According to one Yemeni economist, Yemen's crude production is being stolen by Saudi Arabia in cooperation with Mansour Hadi, the fugitive Yemeni president. It's worth noting that the reason Saudi-backed Yemeni President Hadi is a fugitive living in Saudi Arabia is that the Houthi forces arrested him after he refused to step down when his mandate expired in 2015. He then fled to Saudi Arabia, and Mohammed bin Salman, who was the Saudi defense minister at the time, ordered the bombing of Yemen the very day he arrived. After just 6 months of Saudi-led bombing, the World Health Organization designated Yemen as a level 3 emergency. Now, close to 4 years later, the country has been determined to be the world's worst humanitarian crisis, while Washington continues to look the other way. But things aren't looking so bad for the Saudi-backed government of Yemen. Just yesterday, Hadi's oil minister said he hopes to scale back up its crude production to 110,000 barrels per day.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.